Welcome to the Winnie Podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacy.
Hey, welcome in. We are back for another week to greet you with the review for part 1 of the Becoming Your Own Banker book, 5th edition book study that we're doing. So we're on page 27 right now. And it's a summation and a review of the main items that were discussed all in part 1, which tends to bring up so much more when we get really talking about how this really impacts our community.
Yeah, it's kind of timely for this review to come up because it's changing of seasons. Fall is here. Most farmers have their harvest done. Calves are being weaned and sold and purchased. And, the cycle continues for the agriculture community. So I'm
the
excited.
Big paycheck.
Yeah.
And usually the big paycheck. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Sometimes producers have checks that come in multiple times a year, but for most commercial cattle producers, this is the time of year where they get that lump sum of capital for selling their calf crop.
Mm-hmm. Even if you end up listening to this and it's nowhere near that time of year, I think this is also great to listen to before you even have any money in your pocket yet, because anytime we get an opportunity to really, truly strategically think and have some space to think, what is the best way to deal with the cash that comes in? If you knew that you were going to win the lottery, is it better to think about what you're going to do with that money when it comes in? Or is it a little or a lot, probably a lot more dangerous, once the money's in your account, about what you're going to do with it?
Yeah, I think that's fun to think about. My family and I, because in the States, they have the big Powerball lotteries. And my dad will go and he's like, okay, I got all of us a ticket. We're all going to split it when we win it. And what's everybody going to spend it on? It's always just a fun little conversation that we have. And it's fun to see how each person would plan differently and spend differently, because it's like millions upon millions of dollars the Powerball lotteries are. Of course, we've never won it, and I'm sure we won't ever win it. But if we do, it's fun for my dad. He's like, I can just imagine all of us going down there and collecting our money. Lacy, you and Reed are going to have to fly down here so we can collect our money. It's fun to plan that. And yeah, like that once a year capital that you get from your calf crop, you can do the same thing, because I don't care if it's $100 or $1 million. It is fun to imagine what you have planned or what you could do with that money, whether it be getting out of debt or building wealth. I find it something very fun to do.
Well, and how timely how you just sort of mentioned that, because that is essentially the very first thing that is mentioned on page 27 when you're reviewing part 1, is that imagination is the most important thing, really. Right? Except when you're operating in your own business and imagining what you can do with the money that you receive, there's way more control and way more knowing that you're likely going to have money coming in than not, right? Minus those not so fortunate years. But imagination is the key.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, just like kids, like to be childlike again, the imagination that they have, and like even watching Sydney just with her imagination and all of the fun things that she does, when she's just playing around, whether it be in the house or with her horse or whatever it might be. And that doesn't stop actually, because there's a really funny story about our middle son, Jet, just got back from working in the mountains, and he didn't know anybody was watching him when they were riding their horses, and he was like pretending to be a boxer. And so every time a tree limb would come, he would be boxing the leaves, because I'm sure it gets kind of mundane. You're riding the same trails and stuff, right? So it doesn't matter how old you are. We all still have an imagination.
Well, and I would think that maybe it was just really darn cold out, and that was like a great way to do something to warm up the body and at the same time just kill some time. That's awesome.
I know. And we don't have the video. The video didn't get saved. It was on Snapchat. And so everybody is regretting not saving that video. You know, Nelson always said, and we say it all the time, infinite banking, it's an exercise in imagination. And so be childlike again and get that imagination going.
Mm-hmm. And it is actually more important than knowledge. This is pretty much precisely why we're even sitting here today. The infinite banking concept was really born because of Nelson's ability to imagine a solution and pray for a solution to a really difficult situation. And how lovely it is that we all don't have the same imagination. It's good to maintain that, especially when it comes to just imagining all the different possibilities of what you can do with the cash when it comes in, rather than just simply consigning to, okay, like obligations. I mean, it's a good place to start. I think that's where most people tend to start is, okay, I have to pay off all my debt or whatever my obligations are, and then see what's left over. And in this particular case, it's like, well, how can we imagine what we can do with our cash flow so that it lasts for generations? What could we do with that cash flow so that I can move further ahead in my business? What is really going to move us further ahead?
For a while, dream boards were all the thing. And I remember years ago, Reed and I had a dream board and it hung in our kitchen for years. And on that dream board was an A-frame house and black cows grazing in the field. And we put those there, and that was always a dream. But years down the road, we are living in an A-frame house and we have black cows in the field. Did it happen overnight? No. Was it something that we imagined and we dreamed of? Yes. You can dream up anything, you know. I believe we all have our own vision for what we want our life and our business to look like. And if you don't have that imagination of like how you're going to be able to achieve that, that's your first roadblock. If you go back into our list of episodes, you can hear us talk about imagination in episode 53.
Yeah. And then really the next piece is the reminder of the grocery business, the value of learning how to get into business in which you are the consumer. And we dive far into it in episode what?
Episode 54, we talk about the grocery store example that Nelson refers to. And it's important in a sense that we all need, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're a grocery store owner, a coffee shop owner. If you're taking goods out the back door, you are stealing from yourself. If we are not building our cash value and our policies, we are stealing from ourselves. So episode 54, you're going to hear us dive into that grocery store. So in the last paragraph on page 16, Nelson talks about the record books of a man's business who took groceries out the back door his whole time will never look as good as the business owner who bought groceries from himself, but took them to the front and paid for them.
Yep, precisely. And just thinking about, again, at this time of year, like when you think, because you're in the business, you're the rancher's wife, you hear about it in your conversations with your uncle and your husband. Where might the grocery store example sort of apply?
That requires a lot of thought. Like we do raise our own beef. And so we hold back a few animals every year for our families. But I would say we don't necessarily take them out the back door per se, because we do pick animals that we think aren't going to be as nice for selling, that we keep back for ourselves. We get the discounted steak at the grocery store, right? They do still graze with the others. So I think you have to be cognizant in when you're a rancher or a farmer, like how much are you taking? Are you only taking what you need? Like, are you only keeping back the animals that you need, or are you keeping back more than you need and end up throwing it away or something? As our boys grow, we keep back an entire steer for our family instead of just half. I think that's one way that you could consider stealing for yourself or taking goods out the back door. What about hay? So if you're growing a hay crop and this is maybe a good example. I have my horses, me and Sid have horses. Are we purchasing the hay from the ranch, or are we just taking a couple bales here and there? We don't do that. We source our own hay for the horses and it doesn't come from the ranch, but that is certainly a way that you could steal from yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think about your business is always going to look better and be better if at bare minimum you pay for the things at cost or a little bit above cost. No different than a life insurance company, right? To prepare for good times and bad times, right? Like at least coming up with okay, at the very bare minimum, we can buy from ourselves, but because we have the benefit of, we're working the land, we're doing this, and as our benefit of being in the business, then this is how much we charge ourselves so that we are at least covering our costs for this produce or for the hay or whatever it is, right? And if you consistently do that over a period of time, and a lot of the decisions we make are not always conscious, unfortunately. And a lot of our decisions we make, like how we spend our money, is emotional, like very emotional, especially for us ladies, right? Like if we're not feeling it one day and we happen to be in town, like, well, watch out retail therapy or watch out, like we're going to make ourselves feel good, right? And the guys do it too, but just in their own separate way. So I think really when I take a look at, the overall, without having to go into each one of them, because we have dedicated episodes for each of the areas for the review of part 1 here on page 27, is that what it really comes down to is that the infinite banking concept is a system for being able to handle your cash flow throughout your life. It is a way of thinking that one could really adopt into their lifestyle over and over again on a daily basis. And I promise you, it leads to a greater road of prosperity built on just your decisions alone, right? Without having to necessarily do anything different than what you're doing now, except for focusing on your work and bringing money in, and without necessarily having to invest at the same time, right?
Yeah, because I think farmers and ranchers too, like, you can get so caught up in the physical labor that needs to be done, because let's face it, if the land is neglected, it doesn't take long for you to have a huge problem on your hand. I know for Reed, he is so caught up with the physical labor that has to be done in order to make the ranch go round, him and Brad, that sometimes, and depends on your personality, sometimes the money stuff can be put to the back burner. But if we want to get to where we have visioned, where we've imagined, what we have on that dream board, the money stuff can't be on the back burner. You have to make time for it. If we're speaking to couples, if one of you is heavy on the physical labor and one is in the books, that's fine. But somebody has to be paying attention to the money, and somebody has to be directing it where to go. Because if we don't tell our money what to do, our money's going to tell us what to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And also the environment that you put yourself in too, right? And this is what this really has been about. Like when you start learning about the infinite banking concept and how and why it's so different than other ways about going around dealing with your money. Because I think it's so easy, especially if you're coming from the investor mindset, right? Like, what am I investing my money into? This isn't actually about investing anything. This is about changing the environment in which your money operates. And so setting up that environment so that you can experience being in a tailwind environment, being able to cut through the things that diminish a person's profit, that takes a little bit of time and energy and focus, and people like Lacy and I to really guide you through that new environment, right? And so really encouraging all of you who are listening on the other end. Lacy, if you want to go through those particular episodes that kind of touch on the review.
Yeah, so we had imagination, episode 53. The grocery store is 54. And then the money problem. This is a really good one. It's episode 55. You can listen to how we address the money problem and, what the money problem is. And then creating a bank like the ones that you already know about. So we've all been conditioned to do business with the banks. And we talk about that in episode 56, how you can actually create your own bank. Episode 56 will enlighten you on creating your own bank like the ones you already know. One thing Nelson, and I have it underlined here, is when you make loans to yourself at your bank, don't steal. You'll destroy the best business in the world. So he is always emphasizing that don't steal from yourself.
Which means pay yourself back.
Pay yourself back. And when you understand what the problem is and how the being your own banker works, you will understand why we teach you to pay yourself back, and you will want to pay yourself back. I had that conversation this week. So episode 53 through 56, you can hear us talk about part 1 of the book. Nelson also talks about the capitalization phase, and that it's going to take time and discipline for several years in order for you to see and get to where you've imagined going. So don't expect to get rich overnight, but the rewards later on are worth all the effort. And that's true for anything. We've talked about that a lot, Winnie. Like, we don't go to the gym on day 1 and have a 6-pack of abs.
It would be so cool, but
or ever, like, I don't know. But I mean, like, you don't start eating healthy and in 2 days undo all of the damage that you've done for years to your body. So this is no different. Finances are no different, but slow and steady wins the race.
Well, and having a system, right? Like, not switching from one system to another system to another system. Like, it gets too confusing. I quite often use this analogy a lot. Like, people should brush their teeth at least twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And if you had to think about how you should brush your teeth, like with, your right hand, your left hand, your right foot, your left foot, every single time you had to brush your teeth, it gets a little bit daunting, right? And like the impact of how much time it's taking you to do something so simple, right? Money can be simple as well, if you make it so, right? By developing and adopting a way in which you think, okay, this is the way I'm going to handle my money. And if I do this and stay committed to it, there's only one result that's going to come. And what we hope, Lacy and I hope for you, is that you feel like you have more than enough, and that you really truly believe that this is something that you can accomplish not only for yourself, having that peace of mind, having reduced stress, but also feeling like this is something that you can also leave behind for your family. So living a life beyond just like the day-to-day survival, being able to truly feel like you're prospering in your life and having increased quality in your day-to-day as well, right? I kind of almost have to throw this in. I know we're kind of almost at time here, but around this time of year too happens to be a lot of voting that happens. And with voting comes a lot of radio commercials, social media stuff. And I quite often think about, especially in the agricultural community, like there's lots that gets impacted with decisions that are made at the government level. And that, some livelihoods really depend on the grants or lending that happen because of decisions made at the government level. And I feel like that's a huge concentration risk to go from year to year, hoping that someone in the political community can actually make the right decision for you, right? And I truly believe, and Lacy, maybe you can speak more to this, but practicing the infinite banking concept, which again is a mindset, I think helps to move a person away from having to have that sort of reliance.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like I have a choice other than just being forced into what the current leaders are doing. It makes me, and Reed as well, just feel like we've done something to have somewhat of a choice in our finances, in being more self-reliant, for sure. There's been election and campaign signs all around. But going back to a few episodes ago when I said that I listened to a podcast, and we are not made to have 48 million opinions flying at us every single day. And although I love social media and it's great for a lot of things, it does throw things at us nonstop all day, every day. And so my advice to listeners, if you're looking into IBC, you got to turn that noise off. Well, one, you have to decide if it's right for you, and you have to be confident in that decision. And then you have to turn the noise off. So, because we're here to teach you about the concept and how to implement it, we're not here to convince you. It is up to you to make that decision and to be confident in it. And if you're not confident in it, then maybe it's not the time right now. Because all the opinions flying, you're going to find something. It doesn't matter what you're searching for: recipes, fitness, weight loss, finances, business. You're going to just find so many different opinions. You just got to be confident.
Okay. Yeah, I would say well said. And what is the next action that our listeners can take today, Lacy?
Yeah. So if you've listened to us for some time, you know that you can head over to our website, ranchyourway.com. That's where you're going to be able to snag the copy of Farming Without the Bank, the Canadian edition. It all starts there. We don't meet with anyone until you've read the book, and that is for your own benefit. So head over. You can hear us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can watch us on YouTube. Please give us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate that. And until next time, see ya.
So glad you leaned in with us on the Winnie podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.